Hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of Let's Make a Creature Capture RPG in Construct. So in the previous episodes we did a few things. This series is a bit like exploratory, like I'm going a bit like with the flow. So I decided that we were gonna focus on making like the 3 C's, so the camera, and the control and the player, the controller and the character, sorry. They're very elementary right now. We can jump and move in 8 direction. And we have these kind of enemies that are roaming around. They're always gonna occupy like a tile, but they kind of move around from tile to tile. This was just nothing. This green box was just like literally like a prop, so we could just say where we are, because if we go on these, we enter this battle mode, and then we exit by clicking right here, and the enemy is going to be deactivated for now until, oops, I reactivated it, until I step a bit far, and then it becomes red again. This is just to do a kind of a flee, I guess, mechanic. And there's a few errors right now that I want to correct. I also have this UI that is temporary. It's just debugging. And when we press J, we're supposed to be able to hide it, but there's a bug right now. And there's another issue, which is that when I go in a fight, it's a minor issue, but you can see that these portraits have a grid over them and that they're supposed to be on top of the grid. That's a minor issue. So let's just correct this right now, and then let's just tidy up the code. And after that's done, I'm going to basically work on adding extra maps so we can kind of move out of this area and into other areas. And I'm also going to add an NPC and start to maybe work a little bit on the battle, what's going to happen in the battle, and some of the stats and stuff and UI. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do actually, but I'm going to start by tidying up the code that we did in the last few sessions, and then I'll see where we stand. So let's go by first the overworld, which is the first thing we did. So these are fine. This is a function for creating an enemy. Could be a bit more down. This should be up here. So I like to put my start and tick there. These are all deactivated, that's fine. We could make a function out of that thing. We're gonna make init enemies. Bring it down there. Because all of these things for the enemy, we could make a group out of that. Enemies. Or, we could call it enemy system. Or, I don't know. We can eventually make an event sheet out of it if it becomes too big. And then down there we have some control. This is the bug. The bug is that I need to hide the level debug. And debug. And debug. The layer, sorry, not the level. And these are controls, so we're gonna make a controls group. This here is the debugging slider. This here is also related to the enemy kind of interaction with the players. We're gonna put it about here, and we're gonna put the function down there. Actually, let's put this above the enemy system there. And then this here is a slider, so that's like debugging stuff. In another group, debugging, and that's pretty good. We could have this inside a function. We could have a function called update enemies. Let's bring this function inside of here, right under in here, and we'll take this Control X and Control V and bring it inside this function. And update enemies will be called every tick. So update enemies. All right, and there's one last thing I would like to do, which is a function called update debug texts. And I'm gonna bring this to call there, which are a bit lengthy and shouldn't be taking so much space. So I'm gonna do update debug texts like that. So now we have a much more clean program. Let's go see the common, what's in there. This is small. We have, what do we have? A vignette transition. So that's all the the full screen effects. Like this. And in battle scene, all we have is a debugging button. Oh, we can't use the same group name because it's in apparently we can't. Okay, so we'll do that. That's unfortunate. I wish they was exclusive to the DaVinci, but I guess they're using a similar kind of namespace or RIA. All right, so that's great. In the battle scene, we need to put these portraits. So let's reopen our Z order, plug it down there, and put the base grid behind everything else. Just want to see something. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is a little cleanup that I wanted to do. And now we are going to work on adding transitions. So this is game test layouts. It's not a real game. And we're gonna make a folder called overworld test. And in this folder, we'll put overworld 1 and we'll duplicate this a few times like that. All right, so this is going to be 1 1, this is going to be 1 2, it's going to be 2 1 and 2 2, and they're going to be kind of in a square sequence. They're going to be like, these are the two, these are row and column, basically one row and one column and so on. So I'm going to make these 4 overworlds, and remember that maybe this should be a global HUD, this local HUD there. I'm thinking we should make. So before we actually make these overworld, let's just modify a few things. I just realized that maybe all of this here, basically all of this, all setup, the debug, we should kind of bring it into the full HUD instead. So that's, I don't know why I wasn't thinking like that, but we should make here a HUD debug, and we should make that HUD debug overworld because we can only include it in the ones we want. Let's make it yes, a global layer, and we'll basically bring everything that is on our overworld, all of that stuff, Control X. We're going to bring it on the debug overworld global layer that I created. This global layer, we're going to copy its name, and we're going to bring it and rename this to have this name like that. And I guess I don't need local HUD for now. Lots of wasted effort. It happens. And then we're gonna make sure that this has 0 0 parallax as well. That's very important. So 0 0. And I can just reposition. And now what's cool is that actually I have also these elements are kind of global. So now that I can duplicate this like that, 1 2, and all I have to do now is kind of change the enemies. Oops, I clicked too fast. And change the setup. Let's make a big green block like this. But this UI is going to be the same for all my layout. It's going to be shared and it's going to be managed on this part of the project. So that's the advantage of global layer, is that you can kind of like share them between layouts. I don't know if that's obvious, but it's a big advantage in terms of organization of the project. So now we have 2 maps. Let's start with 2 maps actually. I did 4 before, but let's not overthink it. And now let's make a sprite, and we'll call this a map transitor. Okay, and we'll make this a 32 by 32 object, and I'll just fill it with a color. Doesn't really matter. I'll pick yellow, so 255, 255, 255 of the alpha, and fill. And we're gonna put the image point in the top left corner, I believe. It should be better for this one. Oh, it's actually on the wrong layer, so that always happens. Please construct, make it so that we have a way to lock a layer and block object from going on it. Listen to my video and please do that. It would be nice if we had this extra lock option. So we're gonna put it in the game, actually. There we go. And we're gonna put it here, this map transitor, like that. Gonna put the opacity at 20, so that, you know, I can just go here and see it. So let's pretend that this can bring us to our other map. So the other map is gonna be this one here. I'm gonna kind of change it a little bit. I'll make it like more narrow, like this, and I'll bring enemies like here, who cares? And I'll divide its width by 2, like that, okay? And for now, let's keep the player there. We'll think about that problem in a little bit. Also, I'm starting to be a bit annoyed by the need for a grid kind of to be a part of the whole thing. So I'm gonna make a bottom layer and call this overworld BG, and overworld BG will be a global as well. Like that. Game test will be transparent, that's good. And then overworld BG, that's gonna be on overworld BG there. And wait, there's a problem. Why? Oh yeah, we need it to be transparent. There we go. I was confused for a bit. And this one, we won't make it transparent. This new layer that we created, overworld BG, and we're gonna make it back to its brown color. So this is now a global layer called overworld BG that contains the grid. So I won't be able to picking the grid all the time. Like that, so it's global, again, very important. This is in 1.2, I believe. So let's go to 1.1 and let's do the same thing, game test. Let's make it transparent, this layer, and then under it, let's add overworld BG. There we go, like that. Now I just noticed that the problem with this is that there's a problem in the sense that the color doesn't carry through. So that's a bit unfortunate. I'm gonna have to think about a solution for that. Maybe how could we solve this problem? I think this is a limitation, so we won't be able to use a global layer, which is gonna be a bit of a pain, but it's fine. It's not the end of the world. We're still gonna call it okay, that's perfect. We're just gonna call it the background, lock it. Not a big deal in this sense, because in a way it would only be temporary that we'd be able to make it a permanent thing, I think. Because eventually we'll want each background to be kind of unique anyway. There we go. So we can even give them different color, which is good. Cool. That's not too bad. And we'll put another map transitor, oops, sorry, on the game test there, like this. So a map transitor is going to be this thing that when you touch it, it's going to bring you to the next area, essentially. So for that, we'll add some instance variable, and the first one we'll call it go to layout, essentially. And I'm gonna make this a string and give it a proper initial value of null, and I'm gonna show it in the bar. And I'm also gonna say go to x minus 1 as an initial value, and go to y minus 1 as an initial value. So these are like properties now that I can set up. If I go back to overworld 1.1, this one also has now this kind of setup there. And again, something that I'm not doing enough, I'm forgetting, is to bring my object and make default versions of them. That will be useful, actually. Let's just see if I did it. I think this is the default because this one has a lower UID than the one here. So that means that whenever I create new ones of new map transitor, they're always going to have these null properties. So even if I give them other name, they're always going to, when I create them, they're going to be null because the original one here is also this is its properties, because this is the one with the lowest UID, essentially. So let's not forget to do that. This one will take us to overworld 1, 2, and we'll figure these values out in just a bit. And this one will take us to overworld 1.1, essentially. So when we collide with these, we're going to teleport around. So let's add that code around here. Let's make a group called map. I'll just call this enemy. And in map, we're going to say that if the player, base player, collide with a transitor, map transitor, okay, we're going to say the system go to the layout by name and use the name map transitor dot go to layout. Okay, so that's going to be the first step. Just to try things out, let's try it out. Alright, and then we can see that our player appears in this default location that was set up. And then if I go here, I'm kind of cut now and I'm glitched because I keep going back and forth, and the persist makes it so that I keep my original location. So this is going to be something that we have to deal with, essentially. Right now you can see there's a very big glitch because as we're going back, we're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth super fast. So we're gonna have to deal with that first, okay? So let's think about the sequence of events really, because there is a sequence of event that we need to consider, okay? So I'll make a file and make a text file, and let's note down some stuff. Oops, sorry. I pressed the wrong thing. Well, I wish we could zoom in, but we can't. Okay, that's really. Can I zoom in? Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Let's zoom in even more. All right, cool. So basically, there's a sequence of event. We collide map transitor sequence. We collide with the map transitor. And then basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna check if player can teleport. Well, there we're gonna make like a sort of a boolean or something where it's gonna check if the player can teleport to the new map. Okay, and then basically it's gonna we're gonna store these special coordinates. So we're gonna store the go to x, y coordinates. We're gonna store them. We can maybe use an instance variable on the player. maybe, or we could use a global in this case, or a semi-global in a group, for example. A state variable, essentially. So we're going to store the go-to, and then we're going to go to layout by name. Then we're going to move the player to the stored go-to XY. And then only after that are we going to I forgot to write it. We're going to check, we're going to deactivate can teleport, and then we're going to move to the new layout, move to the new coordinates. Only then we're going to reactivate the can teleport. So something like that should work to prevent this bug. So this is a sequence of events. Let's bring it down there. And let's just work on this little problem. So that's in the overworld. So I think we can say player spawn X, player spawn Y here. So we touch the, and also on the base player we should say can go to, something like that, boolean, and by default it will be true. Let's not show it because we can't really edit it ourselves. So let's just say that if you collide with the map transitor and you can go to, oops, apologies for that, you can go to, we're gonna say okay, set the value of player spawn X to the value of map transitor go to X, and then we're gonna say set the value to go to Y, then take the base player and set the boolean can go to false, then go to the new map, and this is the part where it's getting a bit tricky, because after we go to the new map, I'm not sure if the instructions that we put there are going to carry through, or if we're going to have to deal with them differently. So let's try it first, and then because my memory is a bit fuzzy there, we'll have to try it and see if it works. So we'll say base player set position to player spawn X, player spawn Y, like this, and after that go to true. And to try it out, we'll have to put some coordinates. So I'm just gonna put the temporary base player. So this is the spot where I want the player to appear when he collides. So actually I'm only gonna take I'm gonna take the whole coordinates for now. So 480 by 64, and then in this overworld I want the player to appear here, so it's gonna be 320 by 656. So now I'm gonna put these values on these teleporters. So I'm gonna put something like, it was 480 and 64 on this one, because it's you have to kind of flip them around, you know, use the values of one onto the other. Sorry, where's my map transitor? Okay, let's just bring it here. This one is going to be 320 by 656, like this. All right, so now let's just try it. I don't think it's gonna work very well, but we can try it. No, okay, so you can see it brought us there at the very start, so it doesn't work. It brought us to a different location. So I wonder if it's an interaction because of the... Actually, it's probably just because right now it's something else that's happening. I'm not sure what's exactly happening. I think maybe we're encountering a bit of an issue where this instruction doesn't trigger, but I'm wondering why the flickering bug doesn't happen anymore. So what we'll try is instead of just setting these local numbers there, on the base player, I'll have two values that are spawn x and spawn y. And basically, I'm gonna instead of setting this here, that's what I'm gonna set is these values. I'm gonna use base player and set a value, spawn x, and use base player dot, no, not base player, map transitor dot go to x. And we're gonna do the same thing with y, like this. So we're gonna set these values, and then we're gonna go to the next layout. And we're gonna make a group called player, and we're gonna have specific code for our player there. And one of the code we're gonna have is that, we're gonna have a special code on start of layout. And on start of layout, what we're gonna say is we're gonna check if spawn x and y are -1 or not. If they're -1 it means that it's like the start of the game, and the way you just arrived in the game is not through a map transitor. So we're gonna, on start of layout, we're gonna check if the player, basically, we're gonna check if some of its variable are -1. This is uninitialized, and -1 there. So we're gonna check that, and x and y. So if that's the case, nothing happens, but otherwise, if any of these is not -1, it means that we need to take the base player and set its position to base player dot spawn x, base player dot spawn y. And I'm not sure actually this is gonna work again. There's a little bit of a, because I'm wondering, like, maybe the player gets destroyed, or maybe with persist, maybe each of these player is like a local, and there's a way to make them global and share their kind of properties and stuff. So we'll have maybe to explore this option if this doesn't work at this point. And we're also gonna say can go to is true. All right, let's just try it. So it obviously didn't work. Oh. Okay. Oh, it brought, that's so strange. Okay, let's just I'm wondering if, like, at this point, like, the persist behavior maybe is like arming us more than helping us, but I'm not sure. Maybe we should make it a global, but then I'm afraid that all of that stuff. So yeah, we'll get to it. This is like something that I should have done earlier, but oh my god, I also forgot to delete these base players, so that's also gonna create some issues actually. I'm so stupid. Oops. Forgot to delete something quite important. So, and that was for sure creating some issues, but I'm not sure it's really gonna matter. Yeah, okay, doesn't matter, but it explains why we had some strange incoherence there. So, like, why we were appearing on the actual transitor. It's because I left these extra base player. This is a big mistake that I did, so I should have been more watchful there. All right, so just to be sure, you know, let's put this here. that it doesn't work. Let's disable all of that code. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to rely on a more sturdy way to do things instead of using persist, because I don't usually use it that much. It was more like for going a bit fast. So we'll just do things differently. So the way I'll do things is, this grid needs to be in the background. Basically, the original player will be here on this object layer, and I'm gonna use a special function to create it at a requested location rather than rely on the built-in behavior of the persist. Let's remove the cameras as well. Is there any camera left? No. Okay, cool. All right, so this is gonna be like the whole thing. So this box is gonna create this and this art, and basically the art will be part of this, and the camera will also be part of the base player. But these will only have a relationship of like hierarchy, but they won't be related in any other way. The only reason I'm doing this is to create all of them at once as part of a function. I'm gonna make a function in my overworld called spawn player, and I'm gonna take x and y. I'm gonna create an object of base player, okay, on the level that's the map that's called game test at x and y, and then I'm gonna create a hierarchy with it like this. These two, this base player, actually I'm gonna remove these values for now. They won't be useful in this context now. And these two global, I'll bring them here, and I'll do player spawn x and player spawn y. All right. So basically, actually maybe we don't need these actually. I'm gonna start by trying to spawn it, and then I'm gonna experiment a bit more. So we'll spawn it at this random position. So on start of layout, spawn a player like this, just to see. All right, so you can see that it got created and it's working as before, so that's really good. And now I just want, basically, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do actually. I'm gonna have two values called spawn x and spawn y. I did need it, and the default is gonna be this. Yeah, that's gonna work. There we go. Just thinking about it as I was going, so it took me a little bit of time, but I think that's gonna work. So when we collide with the map transitor, if we can go to, we're gonna set these two values, spawn x to map transitor go to x, and we're gonna do the same thing with spawn y. Then we're gonna set go to false. We're gonna go to the layout. Actually, we don't need these go to anymore prevention thing, because we're just gonna destroy the player essentially. We're gonna set these values, go to the layout, the player will get destroyed, and then at every start of the layout we'll get these spawn values and recreate our player there with its whole setup. I think this is more straightforward because I don't like the idea of doing everything global. It becomes very messy and very implicit. it's very tricky to see what's going on. So I prefer, I think, this method. So I think this is gonna work better. We start here. Oops, I got in a fight. Oh, then I have an issue. Oh, I hit my microphone. So by doing this, obviously, I broke the thing. I broke the setup. So there's a few things going on. First of all, I have to remove persist on this shadow. I have to remove persist on the player because it's gonna mess up my system. The player R doesn't have it and the camera doesn't have it, so that's perfect. So let's just debug the fight first because it's gonna cause some issue. So yeah, we're being recreated every time at the default position. So we're also gonna need to do something like when we get in a fight down there. When we go here to the battle scene, we're gonna need to do something also with the we're gonna set the spawn values as well. We're gonna set them to the current base player X and Y. So like he saves his position so that when he gets out of the fight, he can get recreated to the position. There we go. So it's working like before. It's better than persist to do it like this in a way because you have more control over what's happening. Persist was a way for me to like do it quickly, but I prefer to do it like this actually. And now we can go there and you can see it works. We can kind of transition between areas. So this is very cool. Took way longer than I would have liked to accomplish, but we had many problems along the way, and that's normal when you do something like this, you know, it's normal. Making a software is not a straightforward process, and you have to, you know, just try stuff out. You can see that we attempted different methods until we got a method that is fine. Is it? So I think there might be an issue with this map. I'm not sure, however. Just, oops, we're in the wrong map. I see a sort of a flicker. I just want to I'm trying to see what if there's anything like annoying. There is like a small flickering. I'm wondering I think the problem is this flickering effect, this full screen effect, because the problem is that it's not global. It's supposed to be called HUD full screen effect. Or I don't know why I have two actually. This one is not even active. This one is not even used. So I don't think that's the issue actually. Yeah, unfortunately. So I don't know why, but we have like a small like flicker. It's almost like a, let's try something. It's almost like in the first few seconds of the level we don't see anything, so let's try something. Let's create another one of these pixels on this full screen effect. I'm gonna make one of these pixels, and this one it will be a different template, so it won't be a replica, it will be a template, and the template will be fade. black fade. It won't have vignette, it won't have multiply, and it won't have tween, and it's gonna be fully black like this. And I'm going to put a behavior on it called fade, and I need to make sure that all my pixels, so I'm going to make sure select all, are disabled here, and not destroy and 0, so that it's disabled by default on all these pixels. Okay, and only the pixels that is the black fade, I'm gonna make it fade. So I'm gonna make it I'm gonna say the fade out time is 1 second, and it's enabled like this. So great. So now we don't have the flickering, because we're like cutting to black guaranteed for at least a few milliseconds. So now I really like this transition. It's very smooth, it's very nice. And yeah, I think I'm gonna stop at this for the current video, because it was very complex, more complex than I had anticipated. But I hope you learned a lot. In any case, I'm gonna have to take a little break from uploading for a few days, and then when I come back, I'll be back from a short trip, and I'll be able to record a few more pieces of content. So I do want to make way more for this project, but you know, software is not something that necessarily moves fast, and this is not going to be this kind of tutorial where it's just going to cut corners, and I'm not going to show you really how to make the full game. So we're going to go step by step, and you know, make sure everything is sturdy and works really well. And I think right now we don't have any observable bugs, but you might be able to find some of these. So I hope you have a good time playing around with the prototype, and you're able to experiment on your own. I'm going to be uploading these on GitHub. I have a video coming up that's going to explain how you can even synchronize your own project if you want on GitHub, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and you'll be able to get access to my project that way. So I hope you appreciated this video, and thank you for watching. Have a good time. Bye bye.